We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. You ever wake up one day and realize that the person you married doesn't see you the same way anymore? You stopped being her husband and just became convenient? That was me. I thought Lisa and I were building a life together. But the truth? I was just a provider, just a co-parent. And when I finally became exactly what she treated me, as she wasn't ready for it. Let me tell you exactly how it all happened. My name is James, and for most of my life, I thought I had it all figured out. Lisa, my wife, and I were high school sweethearts. We got married young, built everything from scratch, and eventually had 2 kids. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Back in the beginning, Lisa was different. She was affectionate. We used to dream together, talk about the future and the life we'd build. I thought that love would always be the foundation of our family, and that no matter how tough things got, we'd always find our way back to each other. But I was wrong. Because love isn't just about history. It's about effort. And when that effort stops, the history doesn't mean a damn thing. I didn't see it at first. I thought we were just in a rough patch, and that life with kids was exhausting for both of us. But over time, the affection, the conversations, and the moments where we saw each other beyond just being parents started fading. At night, when I tried to get close, she was always too exhausted. At first, I understood. Parenting is demanding. And after long days of managing the house, work, and the kids, exhaustion is expected. So I didn't push. I gave her space, thinking it was just a phase, and that things would eventually get better. But the distance didn't fade. It became routine. It wasn't just the exhaustion from parenting. It was something deeper. Even on nights when the kids were asleep early, when the house was quiet, when nothing was draining her energy, she still wasn't interested. No lingering touches, no stolen moments, not even a hint of the closeness we once had. Every attempt I made was met with the same tired sigh, the same dismissive excuse. And when I finally brought it up, hoping for an honest conversation, she barely looked up from what she was doing. "We have kids now," she said flatly, like it was an undeniable truth. "That's just how marriage is. Intimacy and romance aren't supposed to be the priority anymore." The only conversations we had were about the kids, school schedules, doctor's appointments, and what groceries we needed for their lunches. So I brought up therapy. I thought if we had a professional guiding the conversation, she'd actually listen instead of brushing things off. I hoped that with a neutral third party involved, we could finally have the kind of honest discussions we kept avoiding. But the second I suggested it, her entire demeanor changed. She looked at me like I had just insulted her and accused her of something terrible instead of offering a way for us to fix things. Her expression twisted with irritation, and before I could even explain my reasoning, she snapped, "There's nothing wrong with us. You're overreacting." That response hit me hard. It wasn't just that she rejected the idea, it was how quickly and aggressively she shut it down. She didn't even consider it, didn't ask why I felt it was necessary. Instead, she got defensive, like the mere suggestion of therapy was some kind of attack on her. She was fine with how things were. I was the only one who wasn't. One night, after yet another failed attempt to reach her, I finally saw the truth for what it was. She wasn't just tired, busy, or preoccupied. She wasn't unknowingly neglecting me. I was just there, a co-parent, a provider, a familiar presence who made life easier but wasn't worth any extra effort. I was useful, not wanted. Reliable, not desired. And the moment that truth settled in, something inside me shifted. If this was how she saw me, then I had been wasting my time trying to be anything more. So I stopped. I stopped waiting for her to notice the effort I was putting in. I stopped planning date nights that she'd forget or dismiss with an excuse about being too exhausted. I stopped standing in doorways, hoping she'd look up and smile like she used to. I stopped initiating deep conversations, only to be met with one-word replies or forced indifference. I let go of the idea that we were still partners in anything other than raising our kids. She had spent years showing me that a husband was not something she needed or wanted. Fine. If she only saw me as a responsible father, then that's exactly what I would be. Nothing more. So I adjusted. I spoke to Lisa only when necessary and only about parenting matters. I didn't ask about her day, didn't check in on her feelings, didn't wait up for her at night. I gave her all of it, more than she ever asked for. But I didn't just withdraw. I rebuilt. I started living my life for myself, not for a marriage that had turned one-sided. I signed up for boxing classes. I picked up photography, something I had always wanted to do, but never made time for. I created an Instagram account, documenting my fitness progress, my solo trips, and the moments I spent with my kids. I was just enjoying life again. And while Lisa barely seemed to notice at first, the world outside of our home did. At first, Lisa didn't notice anything was different. She had gotten used to me being the one who always reached out, the one who always tried. So when I stopped trying, it didn't register immediately. But over time, the changes became too obvious to ignore. And then there was the part that really caught her attention. Other women started noticing me. She saw it on my Instagram. The pictures I posted from the gym, from my solo outings. Women were commenting, complimenting me. And for the first time in years, I was engaging back. I was living my life, and I was happy without her. That's when Lisa finally felt it. The same loss I had been feeling for years. One night, she broke down. I had just come back from the gym, feeling refreshed, when she suddenly confronted me. Why are these women all over you? Why are you entertaining them? I looked at her, calm, unmoved. You didn't care when I wanted your love. Now, you don't get to care about who gives me attention. That's when the panic set in. I could see it in her eyes, the realization that she had pushed me too far. She wasn't just upset about the other women. She realized she had lost something deeper. The man who once adored her, the man who fought for her love, was gone. And she had been too blind to see it happening in real time. She reached for my hand, something she hadn't done in forever. Please, she whispered. Let's fix this. Cut them off. Let's start over. I wasn't even tempted by the idea of starting over. Because the truth was, I felt nothing at all. One day, I logged into my Instagram account like I usually did, just to check notifications and scroll for a bit. But as I went through my posts, something caught my eye. There she was, Lisa, actively replying to the women who had left flirty comments under my pictures. She was telling them outright to back off because I was a married man. It was almost laughable. The same woman who had spent years treating me like I was invisible was now suddenly territorial. She had ignored me, dismissed my needs, but the moment she saw other women finding me interesting, she decided to step in. I didn't even feel flattered, because this wasn't love driving her reaction. It was possession. She suddenly wanted to remind the world that I was hers. Lisa wasn't just trying. She was making it obvious. The change in her behavior was impossible to ignore. She started touching me more, little things she hadn't done in years. When she walked past me, she would brush her hand against mine. When we sat next to each other, she leaned in closer, as if she wanted to be near me. When she spoke, she rested her hand on my chest, something she never used to do. She started cooking my favorite meals again, the ones she used to make when we were happy. She suddenly had nice things to say about my looks, complimenting my haircut or the way my shirt fit. It was like she had become the wife I had spent years hoping she would be, the wife I had begged for. And then there was the intimacy. For so long, she had acted like she was too tired, too busy, too uninterested. Now, she was the one reaching for me. One night, as I was getting ready for bed, she sat on the edge of the mattress, looking at me with a softness I hadn't seen in years. Her voice was low, hesitant, almost afraid. "I miss you. I miss us," she said. I looked at her, and for the first time in years, I felt nothing. No longing for the woman I once adored. A cold, final detachment that told me I was truly done. I didn't care if we had to end things at this point. And that's when I said it. I gave you years to love me. Years of patience, of trying, of waiting for you to meet me halfway. You didn't care. Now neither do I. I want to focus on the kids just as you wanted, and I hope you respect my decision. The moment the words left my mouth, I watched the reality hit her. Her face crumbled. Her lips parted like she wanted to protest, to undo what had just happened. She tried to argue, reaching for excuses I had heard 100 times before. She was stressed, overwhelmed, exhausted. That she did care, that it wasn't what she meant to do. But I had lived through all of it. The late nights where she barely acknowledged me, the constant dismissal of my feelings, the way she prioritized everything except us. And now none of it mattered. There was nothing left to fight for, nothing left to fix. She was finally ready to have the conversation I had been begging for. But I wasn't. Lisa finally realized she hadn't lost me to another woman. She had lost me to her own neglect. The version of me that once loved her so deeply no longer existed. I wasn't cruel to her. I wasn't spiteful. I was just a co-parent. And that was all I would ever be to her now. The house still had both of us in it, but it was different. And now, she had to live with the consequences of the role she had forced me into. Listen, if someone takes your love for granted, don't argue, don't beg. Just become exactly what they see you as. That's what I did. My wife saw me as nothing more than a co-parent, so I became just that. And let me tell you, when I stopped being the husband she ignored and only gave her the version of me she seemed to want, everything changed. A wife who treats you like an obligation will regret it when you stop treating her like a priority. I spent years trying to reconnect, trying to be the man she would look at with love again. But love isn't something you force out of someone. If they don't value you, nothing you do will change that. The moment I stopped chasing her attention, the moment I accepted that I was just a co-parent in her eyes, that's when she finally noticed me again. Funny how that works, right? Here's the thing, I stopped waiting to be loved. I focused on my kids, my life, and my happiness. And when she finally realized what she had lost, it was too late. She wanted back the version of me she had ignored for years, but that man didn't exist anymore. To be completely honest, I enjoy the attention I get outside of my marriage. I was seen, respected, and valued as a person. I've built connections with people who genuinely appreciate me, both men and women, and for the first time in years, I don't feel like I have to beg for basic human consideration. These people don't just see me as a paycheck or a parental figure. They actually enjoy my company, listen when I speak, and treat me with a kind of respect I never realized I was missing at home. As for Lisa, I honestly don't care what she decides to do at this point. Whether she stays or leaves doesn't change anything for me. The truth is, I don't trust this sudden shift in her behavior. If she had to see me being valued by others just to remember that I'm worth something, then that tells me everything I need to know. Love and respect shouldn't require outside validation to exist. If she couldn't appreciate me when I was giving her everything, why should I believe she's sincere now? The way I see it, I don't need anything from her anymore. So let me ask you, what's the worst that can happen? Divorce? If the only thing holding a marriage together is one person begging for love, is that even a marriage? What would you have done in my place? Drop a comment below.